Hi everyone, welcome to my webinar. Most of you already know me, but I'm Carmen, Customer Success Manager at StoryChief. And today during this webinar, I want to show you how to optimize the use of StoryChief for your clients or for your business units or multi-brands. StoryChief can be used in several ways. One of those is for an agency or for a multi-brand company to have several workspaces where you can keep the content separate from each customer or from each brand so that you don't mix the content, but at the same time you can access all the workspaces really easily without having to log out or to log in, so you can just jump from one another. And this is what I will show you today. So we have different use cases here. We have clients that are a content marketing agency who create and publish content for their customers. So they use StoryChief with several workspaces and they locate a workspace per client. We also have some other clients who have different brands, different business units, and they want to keep the content separate. So they also work with different workspaces. But then we also have some other cases like schools or universities where they give a workspace to a specific class, for example, so that they can work on the account during the subjects and they can check how creating and publishing content works. So there are many cases out there. So whether you are an agency, whether you have one workspace for now or already a few, you can still watch this webinar to see how you can optimize the use of the tool. In my case here, as you can see on screen, I have access to 3 workspaces. You might have only 1 or 5 or 10 or 50. There is really no limit on how many workspaces you can see. But in order to see all these workspaces here, you need to be invited with the same user to all of them. And that's how you can get access to them and can jump from one to another without having to log out and log in. Here you can also see a search bar, so you can find your workspace a bit faster. If you click on the 3 dots, you have also some shortcuts to access a specific part within the workspace. You also see the reach for the last 7 days for this workspace. So this is the reach that you received from the stories and the social posts that you have published. And you can also create extra workspaces by clicking on the green button. And then we can activate the workspace for you. So depending on the plan that you have, you may need to purchase an extra plan or just extra workspaces, but you can create additional workspaces too. And we also have some extra updates here, so you can see for what workspace this update is about, and then who is doing what, and when, and you can follow up on the last actions that you or your colleagues have taken per workspace. So it's just a small summary on the last updates across all your workspaces. Also, every workspace has access to 25 seats in the agency plan. So that means you can give access to all your content marketing team, but also to your clients or other people who may want to be working with you in the workspace. For my webinar today, I'm going to use the Best Company. This is one of my clients, and I'll show how we can communicate with the client because it's important to know that although the agency in most of the cases is going to create and publish the content, you always need to involve the client. They need to accept the content that you are writing. They need to know what you are writing, and that communication can be really fluent through StoryChief. You don't have to call him or send him separate emails for this. It can all happen within the same tool, and this is what I'm going to show you today. So I'm gonna click on this workspace, so I just get to the dashboard. If you want to go back to the workspace center, you just need to click on the button here at the top, and then you'll go back to the workspace center. So now, as I was saying, let's say that you have created already a story and we want to share it with the client. We want to ask approval to the client. So there are two scenarios here. Either you can invite the client as a user to the tool, so he can log in, he has access to the stories, to the content, to the metrics, to the calendar, to the campaigns, to everything. Or you can also not invite the client as a user, but send external approval to him. That means that he won't have access to the platform, he won't see anything, but he will get access to the specific story or to the specific social post that you want to share with him. He won't be able to edit the content, but he will be able to give comments, give feedback, and also approve or decline the story or the social post. So I'm gonna show you how to work with both of them. First of all, let's say I don't want to add my client as a user, but I do want to send him an approval request. So let's see how to do this. I go to a specific story or a specific social post. So I click on edit to go into the editor. And here I see the story, so I can click on collaborate and select the ask someone to review. Here I can select one of my users for the approval request, but my client is not a user and I don't want him to be a user. So I can just type his email address instead. So this will be the StoryChief@gmail.com. So I click on create. I can also give a note if I want to give him some context to why he's receiving this email. I can also leave this checked on unchecked. This means if I leave it checked like it is now, means that he will see the buttons to approve or decline the content. That's actually what you want. But it could be that you want to share this with your client or with your colleagues and you don't want specifically to ask for approval. Maybe it's just a way to check the story, but you don't need any action from them. In that case, you can also uncheck this option. So now I click on confirm, and then the customer, the client, will receive an email with a link to the story. But he will only have access to the story. He won't have access to the platform, to anything else. He won't be able to change the content or publish the content. He will only be able to see it and give feedback on it. So let's see what it looks like for the client. So I'm going to switch my view to the client inbox, which is here. So I see that the client has already received the email. So it says Carmen wants you to review this story with a button to review. So the client can click on review to access the story. Again, this is just a read mode. This doesn't give him access to anywhere else in the tool or to edit the story or anything. You can see, for example, that he has this preview title just to show him that this is just a preview. He doesn't have access to the SEO score, for example, because this is something internal. So the access is really limited. And the idea is that he reads the content and he approves it or declines it. So what he can do for now is he can close the pending approval for now. He can take the time he needs to go through the content and read it. He can leave some comments if he wants to. Let's say, for example, he can select the text, click on comment and say, nice text, but it's too long, for example. He can also say here, comment, great title, but too big. So he can really add all the comments that he wants. And you as an agency will be able to see them. You will be able to find them in your story, in the comments part, and you will see that they come from this specific client because you see his email address in here. Now the client has two options. He can either click on pending approval. He can either click on pending approval to approve the story right away, by saying, hey, I've left a couple of comments, but I'm counting that you will fix them, and then you can publish it. Or he may say, no, I want to wait until you resolve and fix the comments, because he will receive a notification when that happens. And after that, I will come back to the story and then I will approve it. But until then, I'm not really approving it. That's also an option. It really depends on how you want to work and how your client wants to work. Most of the clients that I work with or that I've heard about, they create the comments in here and then they yes, and they just approve it right away. So they click on approve and then the story has been approved with a couple of comments that he has left. Now he can either close the tab because there is nothing else that he can see. He can also leave it open or even save it as a bookmark because all the changes that you as an agency make will also be updated in his view as well. So he can actually follow on the changes, but that's up to him. We can close it for now and then we will go back to the agency view where we will see, if we go back to the overview, we will see that the story has been approved. Here. If we hover with the mouse, we will see that it has been approved by that specific email address a few seconds ago. So we know who has approved it, in case you send it to several people. So that was the first scenario. This is the case where the client is not added as a user and he only gets access to a specific story or a specific social post to read it and to approve it. However, it could be that you want to give access to your client to the tool or that the client himself also want to get access to it. So you can do that as well, there is no problem. And we just need to add him as a user first. So let's do that. Let's click on the name, we go to users, and now we can invite him as a user. So we give him a name, for example, client with an email address, teststorychief@gmail.com, and then we can decide the role that the client can have. It can be a publisher, a writer, or a guest writer. A publisher is someone with access to the whole tool, the content, the metrics, the content calendar, the campaigns, the settings, the users. However, he won't have access to change the workspace name or delete the workspace or the API keys. But other than that, he can do everything else. If you want him to give him the writer role instead, he will have access to all the content, but he cannot publish it, and he won't have access to the insights, but he will have access to the content calendar and to the campaigns. And if you want to give him a lower access, you can give him the guest writer role, which means that he only gets access to his own content and not the other content, whether they are stories or social posts. He can, of course, not publish either, and he cannot see anything else. No metrics, no settings, nothing. It's usually meant to be for freelancers or external collaborators to only write and give it to the next person. In this case, I want to make the client a writer. So I'll select this role. I want to send him an email to notify him, and I click on create. So now the client is here, is pending, because he has to activate his account. So let's go back to his inbox to see the email that he has received. So I go back to the inbox, and then I can see that he has been invited to join StoryChief. So he can also see the name of the workspace, and then he can click on join workspace to do so. So now he has two options. Either he creates a password or he can sign up with Google. So I'm going to use Google because it's a bit faster. Like this. And now he has logged in. So he has activated his account. So the user won't be as pending anymore. He will be already active. But in this case, he only gets access to his workspace and not the other ones that I have, because he has only been invited to this one. So he cannot see the other workspaces from the other clients. So he can go in, and then he has access to see everything. As I said, he doesn't have access to the insights, and he doesn't have access to the settings or to the users. but he can still see all the content created and see some other options as well. Let's go back to the agency. So here, now if I refresh, the client is not going to be pending anymore because he has already activated his account. So now we go back to the content, and now that the client is a user, I want to request approval to see what the difference is with the previous use case. So I have this story here, for example. I click on edit, and now I click again on collaborate as I did before. But in this case, I don't have to type his email address because he is already a user. So I just need to select him from the dropdown. I can also add a note. I can also decide if I want to include the approve and decline buttons or not, and I can click on confirm. So now the client has been invited to review this story, and he will receive an email for that. So if I go back to his inbox, then I can see that he has received the email about reviewing the story. So he can click on review. He gets access to the story, but in this case, the story looks way bigger than the previously. He has more access than the previous client because the previous client wasn't a user in the tool. So first I'm going to request access because the agency is still in the same story. So I'll request access and I'll force the take. So that's how he can edit and make changes to the story. I will close this for now as I did previously. And if you have a look, the client can now see the SEO score, for example, as you can do. If he clicks on the three dots, he has all the options that the agency can do, but the purpose is the same. He needs to go through the story and read it. He can send the comments that he wants. He can, in this case, send a notification to the other users because now he's part of the team. So he can say, hi, this is great, for example, or he can say here to someone else, to the writer, I don't like this bit, for example, something like that. So it's in the same way as before. He needs to give all the comments or all the feedback that he wants, and then he can either right away approve it, just knowing that the agency will fix the comments before the story is published, or he may want to wait until the comments have been taken care of, and then he will come back here and approve it. That's really depending on how you want to work. Let's say I want to approve it right away, so I can say I left some comments, but I'm counting on your actions to fix them, something like that. So now I click on approve and the story is again approved. If I go back to the overview as a client, he can see that he has approved his own story and the agency can see it too as well. So here he can see that it has been approved by client a few seconds ago and the previous one is already 8 minutes ago. So let's go back to the agency. So the agency is in the same story. He can take the log if he wants to keep working on it, but he can already see all these comments. He can click on comments and see all of this. So for example, this is great, okay, resolve. I don't like this bit, so I'll delete it or I'll change it or I'll do something else. Let's put back the header. So now that I've made the changes, I can resolve it as well. So the client will receive an email saying that the comments have been resolved as well. So both parties will always know what the situation of the story is. If I go to the agency's inbox, I see all of them. I see that first the client that didn't have a user accepted the story. I can see that client, when he was a user, tagged me in a comment, but he has also accepted it. So I always get an update on everything that is happening from the client side, so that I don't miss on anything. Let's go back to the overview, and again, the agency can also see here that the story has also been approved. Perfect. So these are the two cases or the two scenarios that you can have with your clients. Either you give them a user, or you don't give them a user, and then you just ask approval externally. The same can be applied if you work with different business units. It doesn't have to be a client, it can be a colleague that needs to know that a story is well written or that the story can move forward. So you can use this always depending on your own use case. Another option that you find under the collaborate is the public share. So if I click on collaborate, I find this option. This is just a share link that you can share with anyone. In this case, StoryChief is not going to send the email to the client or to the user. In this case, you will have to send the link via Slack or Microsoft Teams or any other channel that you want to use. And in this case, the approval request is not really asked. I mean, there is no approval request. It's just a way of giving a link to the story so that the person can read it, but the person won't be able to click on approve or decline because it's not officially a review request. It's just sharing the story with someone else. If that someone else wants to add comments, he can do that as well, but he has to first enter his email address. This is just so that you as an agency know who is writing the comments, because if you share this link with many people and they all comment, you won't be able to know who is writing the comment and you won't be able to reply to them. So in that case, they are asked to just type in the email address to confirm that they are an email address, and they will be able to give comments, and you will know who is writing the comments and you will be able to reply to them. So that's also an option that you can use. So let's go back to the overview because there are some other options in here. There was a question in the chat before about what are the advantages and disadvantages of using one workspace for all my clients or using different workspaces as I'm explaining here. So basically, if you use the same workspace for all your clients, you cannot give access to your clients to the workspace, because they will find other clients' content, which shouldn't be the case. And if you give them a limited role so that they don't see other people's content, then they won't see the metrics. So yeah, they don't get any value out of it. So if you want to give access to your clients to the workspace, then you need to work with different workspaces so that each of them can be assigned to the right one. Also, another problem of working with only one workspace is that you have to connect all the channels, all the blogs, all the social media channels, and when publishing the content, you may make a mistake and you may publish the content in the right channel, which is actually a really big mistake. So yeah, it implies that you can just make some mistakes by accident. On the other hand, one advantage that I find is that you only have one calendar. So you go to the calendar and then you can filter. For example, if you create a campaign per client, then you can filter and see what content is expected for a specific client. And you only have one single calendar that helps you understand what you have to work on. So that's one advantage that I like a lot, but that's the only one. All the others are, to me, just more problems than benefits. But it also depends on how many clients you have. If you only have 2 clients, you can still make it work. But if you have 5 or more, then you do need different workspaces. So that's one of the questions that I had in the chat. I also want to show something else. Since recently, only since yesterday, you can also do some actions in bulk. That means you can select a number of stories or a number of social posts or a number of campaigns and do something for all of them at the same time. For example, I can select a number of stories here, 3, and I find this button here, the actions button, and I can delete the 3 stories at the same time. I can also add them to a specific campaign that I can choose, or I can add collaborators to it. So this one, the last one, is quite interesting if you want to even send the stories to your client. It's not an approval request, not for now, although this will be an option that we are going to include soon. But you can just add them as a collaborator, just so that they know what you are writing and that they can read it. And the good part is that they will only receive 1 email for the 3 stories, instead of receiving 1 single email per story that they have been assigned to. So if you do so, then you select the user, in this case the client, and then you click on add, and then the client will be added to all 3 stories at the same time. If we go to his inbox, here we see that Carmen has invited you to 3 stories, and he can see them all in the same email. He can click on each of them individually, or he can also go to all the stories at the same time. So this is a great way of avoiding sending so many emails, and in one time you can just send him a number of stories or social posts for him. In the near future, this will be also possible for approval request, which will be a great option to send a number of stories or a number of social posts at the same time. So this will come soon. But this is also a way of communicate, send stories over to your client. In this case, the client needs to be a user in the tool. But it's just a way of working a bit more efficient. Another thing that I wanted to show as well is that you can duplicate content from one workspace to another. So, for example, if you are working with a multi-brand and you still have everything separate, but sometimes the content is the same, or you want to recycle the content from one client to another one, that's possible. So what you can do is you go to any story or any social post, you click on the 3 dots, and then you find the option duplicate to workspace. So here you can choose what workspace you want to use, for example this one, and then the story, the text, and the summary tab will be transferred to that workspace. The original will stay as well here, but a copy will be sent to the other workspace. However, not everything is transferred. The comments, the users, the editorial brief, custom fields, the key phrase, all of that is not really transferred because it may be irrelevant in the other workspace. The users may not be the same ones. The custom fields may not be the same ones. So we don't transfer all of it. We only transfer the content, the text, which is actually the most important thing. If you do that, then you just get a confirmation that this has happened. You can click on view to actually go to the other workspace and find the story there. So you can continue working here or just close it and then you stay in the same workspace. And the original story stays. So that doesn't get deleted or it doesn't change the status. It's just a copy that was sent to the other workspace. Something else that I wanted to show as well is that if you are an agency plan, the owner of the agency will have access to the billing page. So if I click here on my name, I have access to the billing page. However, all the other users won't have access to this page automatically. You don't have to do anything about it. It's just because you are an agency plan, so this is already done for you. So the publishers, the writers, and the guest writers, none of them will see the billing page. However, if you have another plan, a team plan, a legacy plan even, and you still want to use the workspace for your clients, you can also hide the billing page from the rest of the users. So to do that, you can click on your name, you go to settings, and as the owner of the account, you will see this option, StoryChief for agencies. So if you click this option, then you enable the agency mode, which means that all the other users in this workspace won't be able to see the billing page. Only you as the owner will. But as I said, this is not applying to agency plans, because either whether you check it or not, the billing page is already hidden for everyone except the owner. I just wanted to give that as an information as well. And now I'm just almost finishing my webinar, but let's have a look at the feature improvements that we are working on. The first one, as I have already mentioned, is the possibility to send approval requests in bulk. So as you can see, we have now some bulk actions for stories, social posts, and campaigns. And very soon, in a few days or weeks, this will also be possible for approval requests. So you will be able to select a number of stories, social posts, and you will be able to click on actions, and then you will see this button here, ask approval, which is coming soon. So that's one thing that you can expect from us. Something else that you can expect from us is a public calendar link. So at the moment, if you go to the calendar, you find the planning for the next weeks or months. You can also apply some segments to make the view a bit smaller. And if you want to share this with a user, for example, the client, as long as he is a user, you can do that by just sharing the link at the top. You can also just create a filter with a specific campaign or with a specific value, and then share this link with him. So you can do that as long as the client or the colleague is a user. However, this is not possible if the client or the other colleague is not a user. If you share this link with them, they won't be able to access it. So we are working on allowing that you can share this calendar with external people as well. For example, a client. And this will give him a view on everything that you are working on and what to expect from you as an agency in the coming days or weeks. He won't be able to edit or change anything because, again, he's not a user, but he will have a view mode where he can see the calendar for the next weeks. So this is something that you can also expect from us. So this is it from my side. Let me know if you have any questions. You can also send us your questions through the chat or through email. And I'm really hoping that I was able to teach you a couple of things. We will be improving these agency flows over time as well. So I'll probably record other webinars in the future as well. And not unimportant, if you like StoryChief and you want to refer us to others, you can also get something out of it. So if you know someone that may be interested in knowing or in using StoryChief, if they convert, if they purchase a yearly plan, you will get a voucher worth $100 or €100 that you can spend on an online shop. So to check it out, you can click on your name, you go to referral program. Here you will find instructions and also your personal link, your unique link that you can share with the others. And if they open a free trial through that link, we will know that you have referred them. So in the moment they purchase a yearly plan, you will get contacted by us with the voucher to spend on a specific shop. So here, for example, you can see that I have already given this link to 2 people who have created a free trial, but they haven't bought the yearly plan yet, but I'm still waiting and hoping they will do that soon. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, just contact us, and I hope to see you in our next webinar. Bye bye.